I think most of us just want a team, and it just makes much more sense. So this gentleman, Big Cy in Oakville, says, we're a solid 2.5 sports town. With soccer coming, we will not support a third major franchise. It will be an embarrassment to lose another team. See, I disagree. As Frank DeFord once eloquently wrote, there's no such thing as a bad NFL city. There's only bad NFL owners who can poison the market. So like Minneapolis, they have 4. They do okay. That's the 14th market. Denver has 4. That's the 16th biggest market. Orlando, well, they don't have football. But I'm thinking of, look at these. Miami, Fort Lauderdale is the 18th biggest market. They're doing okay supporting their teams. Cleveland, they don't have the NHL, but they're doing fine supporting 3 teams. Sacramento is 20. But I can't believe Portland moved ahead of St. Louis market size. Portland's 21, Charlotte's 22, and then we have St. Louis at 23. I just think the NFL product is so unbelievable, and the television ratings are so spectacular. And we've seen the way St. Louis supports even reasonable football. Now, when you have like the worst 5-year stretch and you have an owner threatening to leave, those are more than extenuating circumstances. But I mean, look at the Battlehawks. Look at the records we broke. I mean, if Indianapolis can support a football team, why can't St. Louis? Pittsburgh is even a smaller television market, according to this poll. Well, they have a great football tradition, but look, we can support the NFL. We always have. And the reason that we lost football teams was not because of a lack of support. It's because we had crappy owners who were bad people, particularly the last one. All right, so you know the story yesterday. Seth Wickersham with some great reporting on the NFL owners' meetings in New York earlier in the week. Bernie Miklasz had a chance to talk with Seth yesterday. Let's hear part of that interview.
All right, I wanted to ask you, because this was a hell of a story, speaking of your reporting, from the owners' meetings in New York, NFL owners. And Stan Kroenke basically wants to get out of his signed agreement with the other owners that he's going to take care of all the legal costs of this, or most of them, of this fierce lawsuit going on with the city of St. Louis and the Regional Sports Commission and, of course, Kroenke and the NFL. So tell us about it. I mean, how are you surprised that this developed?
Man, it's really interesting. So it's like you think about all the things that are going on with the NFL right now. Deshaun Watson, Washington football team, John Gruden emails. These are the first league meetings that have been held in person since December of 2019. And the most contentious issue that came up was none of those issues, and instead it was the city of St. Louis's lawsuit and the effect that it's having on the league. And, you know, a lot of these owners don't like paying for things that they feel like that they, you know, don't owe money for. And this really goes back to January of 2016. I reported at the time with my colleague Don Van Natta that the morning of the vote in Houston, the league presented every team involved in the LA Derby with an indemnification agreement, and it was to cover. They agreed to cover all legal expenses in the event of a lawsuit. And that happens sometimes. You know, you see the city of Oakland, it usually goes away. With St. Louis, it just hasn't gone away. And I think that what makes this frustrating for Stan Kroenke is not only that it's costing him a lot of money, 8 figures in the cases of some teams, but that some of his colleagues helped pave the way for this lawsuit. There was an email written from the Carson Project, that of course was the Raiders and the Chargers that were competing with Kroenke for LA, that laid out all of the ways that they thought that Kroenke was in violation of the NFL's own relocation policy. And that kind of became the blueprint in a lot of ways. It came up in discovery, but it became the blueprint for a lot of what's followed. And so I think that Kroenke, from his point of view, is feeling like, I have paid a lot. Some of this is not my fault, and I shouldn't have to pay for it all. And that was not met well by his colleagues, this week in the league office. They were very upset about it.
All right. One thing, too, is when we interviewed Mike Florio, I guess that was on the television side, he said that a St. Louis franchise would also expand the inventory of games. So the splitting of the pie is a wash since the league's game inventory will also increase. Yeah, I think it's, in general, it'd probably be a little easier to just say, here, take a team, as opposed to writing a big check. All right, so Benjamin Allbright is a reporter on the Broncos radio network, and he's been kind of involved in this because he had a pretty good in with Stan Kroenke, and he had some interesting thoughts about the NFL and the possibility of St. Louis getting a team.
Originally, Stan had promised the guys around the league that if they approved his relocation, in spite of the fact that he did not meet the relocation guidelines at all that the league had officially set out, that he would pay the legal fees for the ownership. Now he's trying to pivot off that, and Jerry Jones is actually supporting his pivot off of that. The rest of the owners are up in arms because they said, hey, we agreed to this. You gave us cover for breaking our own rules, and now you're not doing that. And if you look at the way the lawsuit has been going for Kroenke, who has lost almost every step of the way so far, the NFL is going to be on the hook for a ton of money. From what I understand, the NFL is actually prepping a package to offer an expansion team to the city of St. Louis because the league cannot afford what's ultimately going to be somewhere between $8 and $12 billion in judgment against the league, which is 3/4 of their yearly operating net gross operating. So I don't. I think that situation has a chance to get sticky. Right now, the owners are voicing their displeasure in an attempt to pivot Kroenke, but he and Jones are allies, man. I mean, they orchestrated this whole thing. They orchestrated his move to L.A., the Spanos thing. They orchestrated Mark Davis pivoting off San Antonio to go to the Vegas. They orchestrated this whole thing. Now, balls in everybody else's court because they want those legal fees paid. They don't want to come out of pocket.
$8 to $12 billion. Now, I don't know. That seems a little crazy, but the numbers are big enough now where you're thinking, yeah, maybe this team thing is not crazy. So I was texting with Dave Peacock last night, and I said, what do you think? Everybody is starting to think this getting a team thing is not so crazy after all. And Peacock does not think it's happening, but the big number, who knows? So, up to a jury. All right, Matt, what did you have to add there, sir?
Yeah, we got in contact with Ben to see if he could come on the show to talk about the comments. Unfortunately, he's unavailable this morning, but he did provide us this. The comment, he said, I can tell you that the quote is true. The context of the quote is that it is within a wide range of settlements the NFL is trying to prepare in case the outcome doesn't go their way. And I think that's the first time we've had a reporter actually say that the NFL is preparing a package for an expansion team in case everything does go southwards and they do have that huge amount of money that they don't want to pay, and this is their way to get out of it. I think this is the first time we've seen, a sourced reporter who in the past has been very close on this exact umbrella story say that they're preparing a package. It's not just that they're worrisome because the money could get so big and people have theorized that this is now the NFL is preparing a package because it's gotten this far. This is what everyone's been talking about this entire thing of where's the material, is it going to be settled? Are they going to go to trial? I think the bottom line, though, as you were saying, is it's gotten to the point now where the rubber's going to meet the road at some point. The money's gotten big enough where just being a billionaire and just dealing with billionaires isn't a trump card anymore. And that's the first time we've heard of it, and then that's also the first time we've heard, I think, anybody talking about that kind of money. I mean, we heard $10 billion when you talked to Daniel Wallach, when we talked about being able to 10x punitive damages from $1 billion in damage, but to go all the way up to 12, that's a number we haven't heard yet. And so
Yeah, and we don't know if that's accurate. We don't know it at all. And we don't even know if $1 billion is accurate, which seems so far-fetched in the middle of the summer, and now it seems to be the trendy number. But the fact that you're winning every pre-motion trial, every pre-trial motion, it's been really, really positive for St. Louis. A couple of texts here. But who would approve that? The city government would much rather have $5 billion. That's a great question. They don't care or understand sports. It's a good thought. Frank, unfortunately, I would rather do business with the NFL than trust the city and county leaders to handle the money. That would be a disaster. Eric's divorce lawyer. That's what you got to keep in mind, too. It's not getting the money. It's getting the money and giving it to our politicians. Can you imagine the progressive politicians in St. Louis salivating over $1 billion for wasteful projects like the joke trolley? That's what a texter, his 314, has just sent in. How about a league-owned franchise, no revenue sharing, with a local board of directors to run the team? Let's see what else. Money there is not sufficient entertainment dollars. Money is not there to have 4 teams. I don't know. I think the NFL, though, it doesn't fail. I don't even call what happened with the Rams a failure. I just think it's a horrible owner. So what is Kroenke's next move? He doesn't sit idle. You know, the problem is this, and nobody's discussing this much now, is if it does go to trial, you know there's going to be an appeal, and the appeal could last 6 or 7 years. So, but I think most people believe now it's not going to go to trial. How cool would Spirits of St. Louis be as an expansion team name? I actually kind of like that. No one is writing a check to the mayor, the city council, or Sam Page. Who keeps electing these politicians? Good point.